Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and today we're going to talk about, are you having an identity crisis? And if so, what do you do? If you get a lot of value out of this video, please like it, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and please check out www.personaldevelopmentschool.com for any online courses, in-person classes, anything that's coming up next. Okay, so today I want to talk about what is an identity crisis. And first and foremost, an identity crisis is basically an experience when you perceive you've lost the form of something you were attached to or identified with at one time. So we all have 6 basic human needs, and we're wired to get these needs met in different forms all the time. And these needs are contribution, growth, certainty, uncertainty, connection, or love and connection, and significance. So your brain will develop specific methods or strategies at a subconscious level that it uses to get these needs met. So for example, let's say your highest need and the most important need to you is love and connection. Maybe you get, maybe your brain develops these subconscious strategies to get that need for love and connection met through family, or through romantic relationships, or through having a really strong social circle of friendships. Or maybe it's pets, your dog, animals, whatever it might be. That will then sort of subconsciously identify with these methods or strategies. So for example, you'll hear people say things like, oh, my partner and I are one, right? Like that romantic relationship is getting that need for love met at a subconscious level, and it feels like this merging. Or you'll hear people say things like, I'm a family man, or I'm a very social person. And when these needs are met, literally it elicits an internal emotional response. So think of it this way. Because when we attach to these external things like family or social circles or our relationships, because these external things are bringing us our internal subconscious needs that we're actually wired for, they elicit this internal emotional response. So we're subconsciously so connected that we start to believe these things are us at some level, okay? Now, when we lose the form that we're getting these needs met in, we suffer deeply. So on a side note, and I'll get into this later, but we also can have a mini identity crisis if we start forming really negative associations to something we've been identified with for a very long time in a positive form. So for example, if you are a really big career person and then you start to hit a burnout and you're like, oh my gosh, who am I without my career? Like that right there can create a mini identity crisis too. It doesn't actually have to completely be a loss or break an attachment from something in full. You can just build more negative and positive associations to something that you've been identified with, and then it sort of leads to this deep questioning. Anyways, so you've all seen how much suffering comes out of when our relationships end, or when we lose a family member and somebody passes away, or anything like that. So here's the thing, you don't actually miss that person's body, right? Like let's say you lose a relationship. It's, maybe there's a tiny portion of that, but you're not really suffering so much because you just miss that person's body. You miss the needs that that individual brought out in you, including your expression of that need. So for example, if you break up with somebody and they gave you love, right? So they were meeting that one of those 6 basic human needs we have for love, okay? So you miss the love that you were receiving, but you also miss the love that you got to express. So where did that love come from? On a side note, that love was already inside of you, right? Like when we miss the expression of our own love, that love wasn't something that we just got externally or came to life all of a sudden. That's something that we all have access to at any given time. So sometimes people in relationships will give you an excuse at a subconscious level to express what you are at your core. So how do we change this? How do we change when we suffer after this detachment happens? Well, the brain is wired to get its needs met. Every single decision we make, consciously plus subconsciously, is actually because we are trying to get a need met on some level, and we think that we can through whatever strategy it is that we create through that decision, right? So you'll notice after a breakup or loss, your brain actually still goes and gets that need met. So how many times have you seen that after a breakup or a loss, we start like self-nurturing, like trying to just take long bubble baths or light candles or eat comfort food or whatever it is, or go to friends and family, or cuddle our pets more, or whatever it is. And even after things like a funeral, and not to be morbid, but a funeral, there's a loss, and then all people come together and bring that love and connection need towards each other. Right? So the brain is naturally, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, actually seeking out its needs in different forms. So you have to recognize that your brain still gets its needs met. And this will cure a huge portion of the pain that comes from the perception that something is missing in the first place. Because you cannot have a loss without a gain, or a gain without a loss over time. It's not actually possible. So number one, make a list of where you're still getting that need met after a detachment occurs. So you might say after a breakup, you spend more time with family, or you met a new friend, or you met somebody new in general, or you journaled more and connected to yourself more, or loved yourself in a different way, or learned something about yourself, or started a new relationship or community or anything. But take inventory first, because a large portion of your pain comes from the perception that, oh my gosh, like that was the love that I needed, and now I don't have that love, and it's so painful. And so you can heal a portion of that very quickly just by taking inventory of where you still have that need, and you're still getting that need met in a variety of new forms now. And something even better to do is then add, how do these new forms serve me in a different way? How are these new forms adding something really important to my life as well? Because you're just building positive associations to these new forms. Next, we also miss all of the ways that person made us feel about ourselves. So I notice a lot of people when I work with clients in classes or one-on-one, they miss their partner or family member because something along the lines of, let's say that person made me feel really special or important. So maybe that person also brought you not just love and connection, but a feeling of significance, remember? Because that was one of the 6 basic human needs. So write a list of traits that the person you're detached from, or whatever it is that you're detached from, it could be career or anything in the form of an identity crisis, write a list of traits that person or situation brought out in you. And then look for where those traits or how those traits are still available to you now, and start expressing them. So for example, let's again say, like, we'll keep using that same core example that you lost a relationship. And let's say that person did make you feel really special. Look for who makes you feel special in your life currently, and write as long as a list as possible. Because again, it'll start to heal that perception of the void that's in fact causing a large portion of that pain to begin with. And also look for what other traits they brought out in you. So maybe they made you feel special, but maybe they made you be more fun or more outgoing. And then start expressing those things so that it's not just this loss. Because again, we're not missing the body, we're missing the needs that person met within us, and the expressions of those different needs that we have as human beings that person brought out in us. Okay, so if that person made you more sociable or outgoing, great. Start doing more sociable and outgoing things now. Keep that sense of self in there during that identity crisis process, or to heal that identity crisis process. Next, connect to yourself again. Our sense of self is so largely determined by our beliefs and our needs. So whether you're consciously aware of this or not, you really want to take a belief inventory because of this. So, and not just a belief inventory, a belief and need inventory. And this will help you reconnect to that sense of self at a subconscious level, which is, again, like, this is really what we're needing. So ask yourself, what are my stories? This is a really good place to start. What are my stories, which are really just my beliefs? Like, what are my beliefs or stories? You can use that word interchangeably, sort of, about myself, women, men, my family, my parents, which again is family, my relationships in general, the world, my body, food, success, career. Like, go through the different aspects of yourself and write your beliefs, because again, we act through our beliefs, and this is a more complex topic, and I'll talk about this in the belief video that I'm creating. But our beliefs are really our sense of self and our needs. So again, go through, take belief inventory, and you can even go through the 7 areas of life, which are, it's really 8 areas of life: career, financial, mental, emotional. Maybe those are 2 different ones, I think more so, but research says no. Spiritual, physical, social, and relationships. So go through and write out what are my beliefs in this area, and then go back through and write what are my needs in these areas. Okay, this is super important, and you're getting connected again to that sense of self. And lastly, your sense of self is also largely based on the traits or characteristics that you're most identified with. So anytime we have a loss, you can think of a loss in any form: loss of a job, loss of a relationship, as an opportunity, because space now opens up for new things to enter. And this just happens inevitably, again, whether you're consciously aware of this happening or not. So a really cool thing to do if you're just trying to ground yourself back into a feeling of sense of identity, because if anybody's ever been through an identity crisis before, sometimes it feels like it's just, you feel so ungrounded in a way, like you kind of feel like you're floating. And so something you can do to just ground yourself again and just help you get connected to yourself in one way is just for a week, write 20 traits of who was I today and what were my needs today. And again, the characteristics, like these traits are this other really important part of our identity. So maybe you were somebody loving, giving, nurturing. Maybe you were a teacher to somebody today. Maybe you were aggressive today in some way, whatever it is. And then at the end of 1 week, and make sure you try to do at least 20, because really after like 10 or 12, you have to start doing the digging, and that's when the really cool things emerge. And then at the end of a week, remember, like, you are who you want to become. You are who you choose. We are consciously creating ourselves at all times. And if we're not conscious about it, we are unconsciously creating ourselves at all times, which doesn't usually have the most positive outcome. So look back at the end of a week and look at the traits that you're proud of and you feel good about expressing, and hone into being more of that and nurturing more of that aspect of yourself. Or look at the common patterns and themes, like, wow, every single day I wrote that I was a teacher, or every single day I wrote that I was a kind person, and look at what you naturally are identifying with and how you were actively expressing yourself, again, without your own conscious awareness necessarily. Now, remember when you're doing this that we all have the capacity to express any trait at any time, and we will and do. So use this as not a sense of putting yourself into a box of like, I am only this person, but as a process to choose who you want to be and to open up this conscious creation aspect of you, not a process to say, I am only this person, because then you're just lying to yourself in some way. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And please feel free to comment if you have any questions. And again, please subscribe to this channel. We're going to do a daily breakthrough video every single day. And please check out www.personaldevelopmentschool.com if you are interested in any online courses, in-person courses, any of that. Thank you.